Hello, dear viewers of the All About Ancient Rome. With me, Yavor Ivanov, and in this episode number 8, we're going to discuss and try to answer the question why the Roman Republic dies. What is the reasons behind the death of the Republic? But before we answer these questions, we have to see where the Roman Republic began. And of course, when ended and why. The Roman Republic began in 409, when the last king of Rome was expelled. His name was Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, or Superbus it means proud, who was expelled. We know before the Republic was the king period. Most of the kings were depicted by ancient sources, including Livy, more of on the dark side as a bad characters, who legacy was more negative than positive. But it's not certain by the modern scholars and reading the historical facts that is that true, or it was more of a bias to explain why a republic should be needed more than the kings and why kings were expelled. Because we see in the king period they laid the fundament of the Roman state, institutions, law, Servilian wall, one of the kings built to protect Rome. So it's very debatable if the Roman kings, their rule was only all negative. But we're not going to focus on that. Once the last king, Tarquinius Superbus, was expelled in 509 BC, of course, for anybody who was in charge, who has such a power, it's not easy to stay away and give up your power, even though you're expelled, and to live as a normal noble in a city, as an almost ordinary citizen. So he tried to come back and seize the power again in Rome. There is debatable which date, which is not important, but in 499 BC or 496 BC, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus tried to seize the power again with the help of his son-in-law, the dictator of Tusculum, Octavian Manilius, and his son was there as well, Tarquinius' son, Titus Tarquinius. The battle was bitter and really narrowly won by the Romans, and Titus barely escaped his life. So that was the last bitter attempt for Tarquinius to seize the power again in Rome. So what was important in this battle? That the Republic defeat its enemies and could strive for a long time. Because the Roman Republic will exist for many centuries, for 409 to 31 BC. But what happened, and what is the factors and the reasons to Republic to die? In the beginning of the Republic, to make sure that never again all the power will be in the hands of one man, they create two offices, two consuls who were leading the army. They have another administrative duties, but mainly to lead the Roman army. And if one of them is tempted to become the sole ruler of the Republic, the other will prevent this to happen. That's why it was the main reason that these two consuls were created, these offices. From now on, the king was not there. The kingdom was dead. The Republic was alive, and her life begins. But who were on the top of the Republic? The Senate and the noble families. Who were the most prominent noble families in Rome and in the Senate? Different periods, one will prevail over the others, but in the end, they will rule mainly the empire and hold most of the important offices in the Roman Republic, which we know it was very complex and very sophisticated. These families are a few. Let's mention them: Corneli, Fabii, Emilii, Manlii, Claudii, and also Valerii. But one plebeian family will reach they'll go to top, and they will be very prominent and very powerful and family in Rome. But we'll mention them in the end, after we mention the first ones. Corneli, the most Corneli, coming from Corneli family, that's undoubtedly the Scipio Africanus, who defeated Hannibal and the dictator Sulla. From the Fabii, the most famous is Quintus Fabius Maximus Vellicucus, who was more known as Cunctator, which is mean the delayer. Why delayer? In the Second Punic War, which we had an episode about the Punic Wars, he find the best tactics against Hannibal. So he is one of the most famous member of in the Roman history from the Fabian family. From the Aemili, the most famous one is Marcus Aemilius Lepidus. He was one of the three who ruled the empire in the second triumvirate, together with Mark Antony and Augustus. The other very famous member of this family is Lucius Aemilius Paulus Macedonicus. He would defeat the last king of Macedon, the king Perseus. From Manly, the most famous one is Titus Manlius Imperatus Tarquinius, general, very prominent general. From the Claudii, that will be Marcus Claudius Marcellus, prominent general in the Second Punic War. From the Valerii is Publius Valerius Papricola, one of the very leaders who expelled the last king of Rome. And I don't want to mention it, but there is nothing to be proud of the family of Valerii with Messalina, but she will be living in the empire. She will be one of the wives of and the mother of the two children of Claudius. But she lives so immoral life, so I don't think so. Her family will be, if they look at back the history, very proud of her. And anyway, she did not live in the Republic. The patrician family, the plebeian family, who will reach the top of the power, and they will be very influential with their political connections, money, and extensive power. That is the Metelli, the family Metelli in Rome. And these families, they will become very powerful. Once the empire expands, and we have episodes which explain why the Roman Empire was so hungry for expansion. What is the reasons behind this huge expansion? Let's not forget, Rome will become the supreme power in the Mediterranean Sea. The Romans will do business, trades with China, with Sri Lanka. The Roman state will extend to Saudi Arabia, to Portugal, from Britain to North Africa. Of course, these all territories weren't conquered in the time of the Republic, but many of them were. And these families we mentioned, they will become extremely rich, filthy rich, not only with gold, but also with land and prestige, connections. And also these families will dictate who will be in the Client Kingdom, will be kings, and who will be expelled, who will be killed. And as I said in the previous one of the previous episodes, we say what was behind this expansion. I am prone to believe that the historian Harris, who gave the 3 reasons for the Roman expansion, I'm proud to believe that that's the correct answer. And this is the main reasons for the Roman expansion: fear, glory, and greed. This family, to get richer, you have to wage war. To get slaves, gold, spoils, land. Fear, of course, the Romans had the fear. We will have an episode about the most ferocious enemies of Rome. This was the Gauls, the Carthaginians, and so on. So they had this fear. So sometimes they will fight just to put end to this fear, to destroy this tribes or countries or kingdoms. And the other reason is glory. How these nobles could gain glory? Only in the battlefield. In the battlefield, if possible, to defeat more enemies as possible, so your glory will shine more. And becoming rich, this family with a lot of land and money. The social differentiations between the poor, the plebeians, and the rich, the nobles, and so they call in Rome, patricians, the gap will be huge, will become bigger and bigger over the time in the Republic. These families the small owners of land, they will bankrupt and sell them lands to these landlords, which most of the time they were senators and members of these families, or them associates or friends. And they will create these big latifundrias, and they won't pay wages to these Roman citizens and peasants to work for them. For them, it was cheaper to buy slaves from the slaves markets, or flocking so many slaves from the wars. Thousands of slaves. In Caesar time, a lot of historians estimate that he enslaved 1 million people. But even the number wasn't that big in 8 years in his war, which they were, but in the other wars, they were maybe the number small, but not much smaller. We're talking about in one war, they can bring 20, 50, 100,000 slaves. So they bought these slaves, and this social differentiation became bigger, and the gap was huge. And these thousands of peasants and citizens who lost them land, only natural thing for them was to go to the big cities to look for a job. Unfortunately for them, not all of them could find job, even though Rome was a cosmopolitan city, for example, reached 1 million people in 1st BC. And so the Marx call them, they become lumpen proletari. Proletari that did not have a job. Proletari that wouldn't care less. And that's why Caesar will say, give the people bread and entertainment. This is people who do nothing all day. Not that they didn't want to, there wasn't a job for them. So they will become powerful. And if you win these people on your side, especially in Rome, they estimate that there were 200,000 lumpen proletari in Rome. The 1st of BC, how I mentioned, the city was 1 million. The population of the city was 1 million, and 200,000, the modern historian estimate, were lumpen proletari. So every 5th person in Rome did not have a job and rely on the state to feed them and entertain them. So that's create a very dangerous situation in the Roman state. You have in one side very powerful, extremely rich and influential noble families. And then you have on the other side, in all cities, including Rome, and the biggest number of these people were lumpen proletari, is huge number of lumpen proletari who depend totally on the Roman state. I will call it today on the dole. They were on the social programs, which they're not the same like nowadays, but they were giving bread to them, trying to entertain them, and so on. So these gaps start to be bigger, as I said. But what is a part of that, the reasons the Roman Republic to die? There is one historian who was associated and very close friends to Caesar, who was expelled from the Senate for immoral deeds. We're not going to discuss that. His name was Sallust. Sallust wrote interesting 2 accounts, survive most of them. The war with Catilian and the Jugurthan War. And what he saw, and many historians will agree, modern historians, that the decline and the decay of the Roman Empire will start because of corruption. In Jugurthan War, he bribed a lot of powerful people in Rome, Jugurtha the king from North Africa, of Numidia. And Sallust pointed out that the corruption and this huge gap between this struggle between the plebeian and patrician will put and did put the beginning of the decline of the Roman Republic. The economical struggle, we mentioned it. The slaves took the most of the work in the countryside, even in the cities. So there wasn't jobs for the citizens. The civil wars, this struggle between these powerful individuals from these families to gain the full power in Rome. That will as well be one of the main reasons for the decline of the Roman Republic. For example, there are a couple of civil wars. They were very bloody, and they were between Romans, of course. The first, maybe one of the biggest one, was between Gaius Marius and Sulla. Gaius Marius is the uncle of Julius Caesar in 88 to 82 BC. Then you have Caesar's civil wars between 49 and 45 BC. We touched on that a little bit more detailed in the previous episode about comparing Alexander and Caesar. Liberator civil war between 44 and 42. And another that will put the end, the last battle, and when the Republic really will die. That will be in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. So all these factors contribute: corruption, the social injustice, the social differentiations, the civil wars, and the struggle of the power, the strife between the rich and the poor, if you like, with the patricians and the plebeians. Sorry. And then, who killed the Republic? They all in somehow contributed to that. Once you start to disrespect the law, you put yourself and your interest first before the Republic. You're creating precedents. Sulla did the first precedent. You should not march with army against Rome. It was a sacrilege. You should not enter the Pomeranium with the Roman army. And Sulla, when he saw that his political enemies gained the power in Rome, he decided to march with his army, which was a precedent. It never happened before that. And the first precedent, we witnessed the first precedent. And once occurred this precedent, and somebody did it, there occurred more. And then it's becoming pandemic, if you like. And that's it's the sickness of the Republic. The beginning of the end. All because it was a sacrilege. All officers of Sulla from his army who deserted him. I said, we are not marching against Rome. It's a sacrilege. But he got the power in Rome as he marched his troops to the city. That was the first precedent. Also, Marius did precedents as well. He was elected 7 times as a consul, which it was new in the history of the Roman Republic. And for many people, that was unlawful. The other precedent is when Caesar and Pompey and Crassus, behind the Senate and the Roman people, they formed this alliance of the first triumvirate. They dictate who will rule which countries and what positions they will hold in the Roman state, which was a precedent and against the law. But before we continue with the others blows to the Roman Republic, which in the end will kill it, let's see who Most of the historians agree that really the guy who put the end of the Republic was Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar, who coming from the Julii family. The Julii, it was an old aristocratic family, but they wasn't that powerful than the others. They called the consul in 157 BC and consul as well in 91 and 90 BC. So we see even to the end of the Republic, they weren't really very prominent and very powerful. They weren't even the richest family, far from it. But a guy from this, we can call modest, probably compared with some of the family's poor noble family, one of the members will kill the Republic. And his name is Julius Caesar, Gaius Julius Caesar. We had in the previous episode how he climbed the ladder, what caused him to become first in the state. It was a huge effort he put and energy and time. But that doesn't mean he did not work against the Republic to gain his personal power. He employs very well this gap between the rich and poor, between patricians and plebeians. He will be of the party of the populares, for the poor people and for the common people, and make him even more popular because he fed the Roman crowd. He spoiled them, if you like, with every war, especially the one in Gaul, which was very enriching. He will give a lot of money to these people. He will support them. He will give them entertainment. And if you like, the beginning of the Republic start even with entertainment. He is the one who first will introduce 150 pairs of gladiators to fight. Never happened before. In the honor of his father, as excuse. His father was dead already 10 years. And the crowd liked that. They did nothing all day. They were poor, no jobs, jobless. Caesar gave them food, entertainment, attention, and even make him more popular among the ordinary people and common people, that he was a noble. But he thought of the common people and the poor people. So that's how years of the Republic started. After Caesar winning the civil wars, it happened one huge precedent. He was proclaimed dictator for 10 years. That was a new and very dangerous precedent in the sense of the Republic. Because the dictator was elected only for 6 months. And the power extends only if the Senate thinks that the danger is still there and they need this person to lead the state and the army. Because the dictator concentrates all the power, all the army was in his disposal. And he has power over the consuls. And it was given 10 years, even though with agreement that every year will be assessed, and if it's not needed, his army will be, his dictatorship will come to end. But but Caesar manipulated even the Senate. Manipulating the Senate expanded the number of the senators, and putting his own Muppet senators in the Senate. It was deadly for the Republic. He extended the Senate from 300 to 900, some historians to 1,000 senators. But the number is no matter. It was 900 to 1,000 senators. 2/3 of these senators were appointed by Caesar. Some of them chieftains from Gaul, allies of the Romans. They were all 2/3 of the Senate loyal to Caesar. And that's why the old aristocracy, the patricians for this old family, they failed the threat. They said, yeah, the Republic officially exists. We have a Senate, we are still here. He forgave most of his enemies in the civil wars. Even let them to remain in the positions they were before the civil wars, or appointed them in other positions, but important in the Roman state, even though he holds the whole power in the state generally, the army and so on. And that was another precedent, 10 years a dictator. And finally, he will be proclaimed dictator for life. Another precedent that never ever happened in the Roman history. So this noble man, back up in Rome, in the heart of the empire, from ordinary people and the army, who was loyal only to him, that was all another danger and deadly blow to the Republic. The army wasn't anymore, on most of it, loyal to the Senate. Gradually over the years, the army became loyal only to them, a military leader, to Pompey, to Caesar, to Sulla. They received money from them leaders, not from the Senate. They fought together. They spent a lot of time together. They endure difficulties. And soldiers become only loyal to them military leaders. So the Senate was out of the picture of power. And that was, again, deadly for the Roman Republic. And as I mentioned, first, Sulla marched with his army. Yes, all the officers, except one, deserted him. But most of the army marched with him. So it shows that the army is loyal only to the leader who paid them, who is nice to them, who fought with them, and so on. And after the assassination of Caesar in 44, the agony of the Republic continues. But they were the last agonies of the Roman Republic. This struggle developed in such ugly forms between the rich people and the powerful people. Many precedents happens over the few decades that was symptomatic, and the Republic was very ill. And when was formed the second triumvirate between Lepidus, Augustus, and Mark Antony, the things didn't get any better for the Republic. In the end of the day, Lepidus will be out of the pictures. In Sicily, he will be betrayed with his own troops who deserted him, and the empire will be ruled only by two, Mark Antony in the east, and in the west, Octavian, the great nephew of Caesar. The battle between the two was inevitable. The mistrust, the struggle for power will bring them finally two of the greatest military leaders of at the time to fight. And in the Battle of Antium in 31 BC, Octavian will win decisively the battle in the sea against Cleopatra and Mark Antony, and in the land there, and he will become the sole ruler of the so-called, at the time still existing formally, the Republic. But this will be the death and the funeral of the Roman Republic, 31 BC. Octavian learned a lot from his uncle, great uncle Gaius Julius Caesar. He learned that you cannot insult publicly and talk against the Republic publicly. That offends the people, not only the all aristocrats, the patricians, but also somehow partly offend as well the ordinary common people. So he adopts new narrative, new approach to the state. He controlled the army, but officially two councils were elected every year. He kept for himself the richest and the most powerful provinces that had significance, like Egypt. But he left some for the Senate. So officially, he was first among equals. And he was not called himself king. He was, as I said, first among equals. And he controlled the army, the finance. He was Pontifex Maximus. He was the supreme priest in Rome. But officially the Republic rolled on and existed. The facade of the Republic was there. But behind it, everybody knew the Republic was dead. But the people were so tired of civil wars and civil disobedience, civil strikes, disastrous civic wars, that they accept the sweet lie that the Republic was alive. And that's how the republics die. There were many reasons behind it. We're going to summarize it. The economical strife, the economical disturbance, the differentiation between the different classes. The slaves who flocked to Rome, thousands of them after every war, who took the jobs of the ordinary people. This struggle between the patricians and the plebeians, which over the Republic become really huge differences between the two classes when it comes to wealth. And also the struggle for power, glory, and who ruled the Republic as well played, which will lead to civil wars, will play a major role for the death of the Republic. We cannot name only one person who killed the Republic. If you ask many different historians, they will say Sulla delivered first blow to the Republic. But many will disagree, and they say that the situation, how it develops, led to that, and existence of people like Sulla. That if economically or financially or politically the things did not develop that way, Sulla won't exist. I mean, he would exist, but he wouldn't act the way he acted. But whatever theory we will take and arguments, we can say that for definite the corruption, the struggle between the classes, the struggle for power among the powerful families led to the end of the Roman Republic. Even the expansion of the Republic play a negative role in the future when it comes for the existence of the Republic. The expansion, in a way, killed the Republic. So that's one of the main factors that contribute and reasons who are behind the death of the Republic. I hope even though in the short episode it's not easy to answer this question, or this fundamental question, who killed the Republic, I hope I answer it. And if it's any suggestions, any different opinions, please write in the comments, so we can, if it's a vast interest, we can discuss it and look at different points of view. Maybe you can add more reasons for the death of the Republic that I have so far, and that will be make even more interesting, and maybe shed more light to the other aspects of why the Roman Republic died. I hope you enjoyed this episode number 8 about the Roman Republic and her death. So I see you next time.